blue shirt with the blue background behind me. That was silly. Hello. Test number 2. How does this sound? I'm basically wondering, can you hear anything besides my sultry voice? Can you hear an air conditioner rattling next to me? Or is it just coming through with me? Okay, just voice. That's good. That's what I thought. But just wanted to confirm. So I'm gonna have to try another test stream tomorrow to see if I can schedule streams. Because this what happened right now, where I just went live, didn't work last time I tried to just go live. Because I say because I don't know I don't know why it just was not successful, which was frustrating because I think it was a Patreon live stream too, if I remember correctly. So I couldn't just go live. I had to start a second time. I've changed nothing and got new results. So we will find out what happens. Tomorrow I'm going to try pre-scheduling a stream, though that was not possible today because my little one took quite a lot of time to fall asleep for his nap. Shouldn't have that same problem tomorrow. The reason it happened today is because my wife was traveling. She had to go to the airport, so we took him with us so that I could just then go to a swim class right after. But then literally as we're leaving the airport, she was like, I don't have my wallet. My wallet is not in the backpack. And I was like, no. So I went all the way home, which was, at that point the child was having none of it, which would have been fine if he had then immediately gotten the swim pool, but that's not what happened. So we dropped him off. Thankfully, his grandma and his uncle were here at the house so they could watch the baby. But then I had to go take the wallet back to the airport. No, I did pick up my wife first. I picked up my wife, so at least I was coming with her. Then we got back to the airport. Thankfully, she made her flight. She's landed. Everything went fine. But the child just did not get the exercise and the activity that he's supposed to, at this time of day, and so he just took forever to fall asleep. It's also hot, and so if you take him outside, he doesn't want to go outside. He wants to come back in the house. So I gave him a bath and took him to the comic book shop. And then when we came home, he fell asleep. So that worked out. So, but yeah, that was a fun morning. But you know what? She's traveled safe. The baby's asleep. I think the baby's waking up right now, which is nice. Not the worst case for it to be a shorter nap since it's so late. But yeah, I'm just gonna do some more live streaming this week. And I think the first thing... What did I buy at the comic shop? I can answer that question. Hold on. So, this will likely come as news to no one who've been following along on my channel lately. Oh, first of all, I should say hello to people. I'm so rude. I'm such a bad YouTuber. Kevin, welcome. Rafe, welcome. Danil, welcome. Roguekin, welcome. Steven, welcome. And Joe, welcome. Oh, I need to tell... I have a moderator that I need to loop in on the fact that I'm doing more streams. I will need to... write that down. This is what happens. For those of you who remember when I used to stream a little bit more often, what happens is that as I live stream, I go, oh, shoot. Oh, okay, Zeffy, perfect. Okay. Well, Zeffy, FYI, I'm going to try to do some more live streams this week. And I will figure out the schedule tonight, probably. So I'm going to say figure out... What was the end of that sentence going to be? Live stream schedule. No problem, Zeffy. Welcome, welcome. That's true. It's a test live stream. None of this counts. So for those of you who've been following my channel for the past couple of episodes, you note that I'm getting a little bit more into Batman. So I have actually picked up some Batman comic books. Now, I went, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I got the first collection of the new Matt Fraction run. But I want to keep up with it, so I went and I got most of the issues that I'm missing. They didn't have issue 7. They were very nice, and they said, hey, these are ordinarily like more expensive variant covers. They're like $14.99, but they didn't have the regular covers for these, and so they just said, we'll just sell these to you for regular price, which, like, what a way to cement that you're going to be my favorite comic book shop. Now, I'm guessing also these are not jumping off the shelves, right? These are, there's another issue coming out in like 2 days, and no one's gone and bought these variant covers. There's just not really a market for them in our area, would be my guess. But that was super nice of them. That was very cool. I do need to go sniffing around. I might just go on midtowncomics.com and buy issue 7. But I want to keep up with this in single issues so that, A, I can, like, support the local shop, which I do like to do, but also because there's a big Batman crossover coming in September, and it would be nice to be, like, caught up and current when that happens. The other thing I got is the first collection of Absolute Batman, which I've read none of. I've heard great things. And I'm pretty sure it's free on Kindle, but it's also like, I'm here. I'm at a comic book shop. I might as well just pick up a copy. The worst case scenario, if I don't end up liking it, which I think is unlikely, because I tend to like Scott Snyder's stuff. People do seem to enjoy this. But if I don't like it, I'll just take it to the local library. I'll be there in a couple days anyway for story time with the kid. Good, Zeffy. I'm glad you enjoyed the new video. Yes, that was a fun one. Was very happy with how that came out. Have I read... Ooh, Rabbit asks a great question. Have I read more Marvel or more DC? Without a doubt, more Marvel. Now, I am very familiar with the adaptations for both. And I grew up in the perfect era to be a big DC fan. Although, I mean, obviously that was also the era of X-Men 93 or 92 and Spider-Man 94 or whatever it was. And I remember watching a little bit of the Hulk show. I don't think I ever watched Iron Man or Fantastic Four, but those both had cartoons around the same time. There was a Silver Surfer cartoon. Like, it was a good time. And into the 2000s, Marvel got some good cartoons. You had the X-Men Evolution, which I liked. Certainly there were other good Marvel cartoons. I mean, Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes were great. Didn't get into Ultimate Spider-Man or Avengers Assemble. But then, like, DC really ran the board as far as adaptations went for a long time. I mean, obviously there was a nice chunk there where Marvel had a lot of good movies, which they had not had for quite some time. So it was it was the perfect time to be into that. But I started reading comics through Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Brian Bendis. Newcastle 2005, hi from Italy, welcome. So in the early 2000s, I bought the first 2 like big hardcover collections that had like 13 issues each of Ultimate Spider-Man. Really enjoyed that, and then I didn't read for a while, and then I got back into it around right before Civil War. So there was a lot of like, oh, this is a cool Spider-Man comic cover. Oh, it says it's tying into Civil War. That's interesting. Oh, this is a cool Daredevil cover. I like that movie. It's not good, but I liked it. I should figure out what this Civil War thing is, and that sort of got me. That did exactly what a crossover is meant to do, right? It got you reading lots of Marvel books, and basically then said, okay, you're reading all these books, you have to keep up with them, right? And it's like, yeah, I kind of want to keep reading these, even though I don't think Civil War is like a good comic book. A lot of the stuff I started reading around that time was good, and a lot of the crossovers for Civil War were good, but that got me into being a mainly Marvel guy for... Let's see, when did I stop reading comics? 2017, 2018 probably is when I fell off, just because it was not in the budget to keep going, very sadly. But yeah, I have read some smatterings of DC across the board. I have everything's in the garage right now because there's not not a ton of incentive to have bookcases when you also have a 2-year-old. So I've had to like stash a lot of stuff in the garage if I'm not like actively reading it right now. But because like if he gets in and he like throws around a copy of, you know, whatever, a Stephen King book, like, okay, it's fine, it's gonna be fine. I'm much more precious with like my comics and my D&D books. I don't want them to be accessible, or to be frank, to fall on a child's head. But so I have like maybe I would guess 10, 15 Marvel or DC like trade collections, and I had like 20 or 30 Marvel ones. So it's a major disparity there. And then probably like 20 it's got to be more than that. It's got to be. So I probably had like about half a shelf worth of DC stuff. You know, it's like Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, Year One, Long Halloween, Batman, Superman Birthright, Justice League Unlimited, or JLA Year One. It's like a lot of the major touchstones. Deatham, Return of Superman. Did I say Watchmen? I don't remember. I think I did. But then I have like probably 2 shelves full of Marvel minimum. I did purge some recently, but for a long time it was just like 2, 3 shelves of Marvel at least, maybe 2 shelves of Marvel, and then like a shelf of like independent stuff, Hellboy, Invincible, and then other indie comics. But right now it's like it seems like a decent time to get into the Batman. So. And people seem to like this one. This is having quite the moment. So there was a big announcement thing recently. You read mostly Fantastic Four and Green Lantern, especially after Darkest Night. Yeah, Green Lantern is one of my big blind spots. Because I was reading comics around the time of Brightest Day, Blackest Night, the Jeff Johns, Spectrum stuff. I didn't really ever get into it because I was on the other side of the aisle. And thankfully I had a college roommate who was a big DC head. And so I was introduced to a lot of stuff through osmosis. But even then I didn't read that many of his comics. I was talked about like, oh yeah, I totally do need to read that. But I think I maybe read his Justice League run, like his collection of Grant Morrison runs. And by collection, I mean like the hardcovers, not like individual issues. But there were a lot more that he had that I was like, oh yeah, I do need to read that. I never got around to it. What was I doing? Let's see. Absolute Batman cartoon. Let's see. Yeah, so they've announced that there's going to be an Absolute Batman cartoon. And there were a bunch of announcements around the same time. I think someone pointed out that we're getting like 4 Bat projects coming up simultaneously. Here, I'll see if I can. I'm not going to make you watch me scroll through Twitter. I'll see what I can find them. New Nightfall. Oh yeah, that was the other big thing. So there was the new Nightfall animated movie coming out. Yeah, because there was like 4 big animated Batman things. So it was like Batman Nightfall is coming. Absolute Batman, Caped Crusader season 2. And I thought there was a 4th. Oh, there's a Joker anime thing that they're working on. I think it was the 4th one, which, you know, we'll see. I have no reason to doubt it, but like, we'll just see what happens. We'll see how any of these come out. I'm excited for, I should say I'm looking forward to Joker, or to, Caped Crusader Season 2. Because I'm rewatching Caped Crusader Season 1 as of last night. I'm like, oh yeah, I did like this show. I thought I retweeted something. Maybe not. Maybe it was just screenshots. Oh well. Well, then it's not relevant. Alright. So, I am going to do a little D&D prep. Now, I'm running a game set in Calabris. Let's see, how can I... There we go. And let's see. A night to prep a game. We have taken a couple of weeks off because people's schedules changed in a major way. And so we had to kind of like figure out a new timeline, basically. When are we playing and how often? And we figured that out, and our next game is tomorrow. And so I should figure out what's happening in the next session. Thankfully, we're in a dungeon crawl, so that's going to be pretty straightforward. So we're playing in the world of Calabris. This is Matt Colville's setting. Oops, that's the wrong map. So right now they are going into the Drow dungeon, which used to be Dwarven. So I picked up a copy of this OSR mega dungeon called Dwaro Deep, which is basically going to represent this entire... Oh, I can close this other window, save myself a little bandwidth. Al, son of Ol, asked, any Marvel characters I like as much as I clearly love Batman? Yeah, Spider-Man and Daredevil absolutely are, like, top of the list for me. Huge fan of both those characters. Spider-Man is a tough character to be a fan of because, on the one hand, he is so malleable. Anyone can kind of tell different ways. You can have your own preference for how well he's handled. And also, sometimes he's just in some of the worst comics of all time. And it's like, ugh, rough. Being a Daredevil fan is, like... kind of like just getting a cake every day. It's like, okay, maybe it's not always your favorite flavor of cake, but like, boy, oh boy, I do love me some cake. Hello, Steven. Welcome. And my Batman love has sort of, the first word that came to mind was metastasized, which I don't think is the right term at all. Crystallized? Has come back with a vengeance. Maybe we'll put it that way. Let's see. So, let me pull up the map. I did give my players a map because they met a exiled drow, which I realized afterwards kind of is just the Clarota subplot. She's a, what is she? A werebear. Was this it? How do you launch? But please, like, feel free to ask. This is a stream. I'm happy to answer any questions that come up, even if they are not relevant to what we're doing. It's still fun to talk about. Yeah. So here's the map of the dungeon itself. Not many of his stories reach Craven's Last Hunt levels. Yeah. That is exactly right. Craven's Last Hunt is one of those that I know I've read, but since I don't own it, I think I must have just like read it in a Barnes & Noble. Just like lying on the floor of a Barnes & Noble, just reading comics, which is a thing that you're allowed to do when you're like 20 and no one really cares. At least they didn't at the time. So that was nice. Okay, so they are entering. Oh, I figured out how to zoom in here. Something I could not do for a long time. And you can read all the notes that my players made. So this is where they're ultimately trying to get to. The Foundry. And what they're looking for is that... So one of my players went to the map and said, like, okay, I'm playing a dwarf from this region. Well, actually, he's from this region up here because the dwarves don't live down here anymore. This is the setting that Matt Colville created on live streams. This must have been like 9 years ago, something like that. And the... What is the word I'm looking for? So his father came from this fallen kingdom, which fell within his father's lifetime. He's going back in there looking for like a secret cache of something that is potentially going to be useful. This is a 5th edition game, so I'm going to need to figure out what magic items those are, what is going to be in the cache, but I've decided that it's here. I actually just rolled. I had him roll. I had him roll for like... It was like 3d6 or something like that to like figure out which chamber it was going to land in this whole big mega dungeon. And then I basically told them like, okay, there's 2 places it could be. It could either be through, well, it's in one place. Sorry, there's 2 ways they can get to where they're trying to get to. They can either go through these stairs and into this passageway and basically through Moria this way, or they can go through this tower that's on top of the mountains and potentially deal with a white dragon. And they're like, I don't think we want to do that. We're like level 4. That doesn't seem like a good idea. But like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to kill anything in here. This is gonna be dangerous. I don't know what's gonna happen. One of my players has lost 2 characters in this campaign so far, and we were like 13 sessions in. Like, and he keeps making his first character was a warlock. Then he made a sorcerer, and he died. And now, or no, he didn't die. He got knocked unconscious by a werewolf. And unfortunately, when you get knocked unconscious by a werewolf, you become a werewolf in 5th edition. Now he's a wizard, and I'm like, you keep making characters with fewer and fewer hit points. It's going to keep happening. But, you know, we have sort of, we're going to bounce off of this, I think. Maybe the next time he dies, it'll be like a bard, and he'll start gaining hit points instead. But he's just going through the arcane casters with smaller and smaller hit dice. I'm like, brother. But he's having fun. This is a game of Dungeon Masters, so he's not, like, running out of character options. And what's nice is they're really making their characters for this setting. I don't know if anyone is really familiar with Calabris. I see some great questions here about the hex map and all this stuff. And I'm going to answer all those questions in a second about where I'm getting the maps. But I want to talk a little bit about this. So in Matt Colville's setting, there's a nation called Cardus. And it's sort of a war. This isn't the setting he currently plays in. This is one that he made as an exercise on stream. But it's only like 5 pages, and it's really interesting. And like, I like this setting a lot. And so I just like to have deployed it in my games. I made a video about that some time ago. It's on the channel at the end of last year, beginning of this year, about running, like how I'm going to start running games in Calabris. And at least, you know, for certain campaigns. So in the Kingdom of Cardus, there is a king who went missing fighting the snake men of the Scale Hills, the Yuan-Ti. And so his young son is taking over. He's like 16 or something like that. And he's being sort of, what is the term? Advised by Sir Duncan, which I think was very much like a Dune reference, right? The leader is gone, his very young son, or, you know, inexperienced son, takes over. Duncan is advising him. I think he was doing a Dune reference. The desert is right here. It's all a reference right there. But then one of my players read that description and was like, can I play the Lost King? I was like, well, I had 2 concerns. And the first was, I don't just want him to be the main character. So I wanted to make sure other characters had other stuff going on and other interests and things they were going for, even if the goal was still get him back on the throne. Because that's a cool mission for the team, right? Then the other concern was, you still have to be level 1. And he's like, yeah, sure. He can, you know, he can be a little bit inexperienced, or he can be recovering from being a hostage. But I think if you're open, I'd like to play that character. And I was like, hell yeah. So then we had the dwarf who played somebody from up here in Corim, but whose family comes from the ruins of the dwarven settlement. And so he's trying to get back to his cache. And then he will still help out. He'll still help out with this mission to get him back on the throne. But this is like a nice opportunity for him to like get the thing that he's wanted for this entire campaign, which again has only been like 13 sessions so far. And I very much told them, like, let's run like 13 sessions. And then we got to a certain point where I was like, this is going to take a lot longer than that. Not like a lot longer. This is probably going to be like a 25 session campaign would be my estimation right now. Because their goal right now is, so they went to Zir to look for allies, had some interesting politics happen there, plus they fought some snake guys. They went to like a temple and like cleared out a dungeon, got proclaimed as god killers, and basically became the instruments of a anti-religious crusade in Zir. And they're like, well, that's politics. We're helping them out with their problem where they don't want to organize religion anymore, and we're going to get an army exchange. And I was like, what a fascinating choice that was. Oh my god, that is not something that would happen in another campaign, but for them, for these characters, they were like, okay, yeah, we'll help you get rid of organized religion as long as we get our army. I was like, whoa. I did not think they would agree to it that fast. That was insane. So interesting. So exciting. Then they came out here they managed to get teleported out to Titan's Gate. They were originally going to come here and get a cash, or get they had a banknote. That was one of the random trinkets for like an unknown item in a bank vault in a major city. Something like that, whatever it is in the player's handbook. And I was like, oh, well, it's going to be in Titan's Gate. Perfect. It's an excuse to get us further down the map, right? So we had like 3 main points of interest on the map. Well, that character died. But they still had to go to Titan's Gate because I was like, well, that is where it would make sense for the Dragonborn wizards to be able to teleport you. Fair enough. They've been making their way up. Around here, they fought some werewolves, and that went very, very poorly. They helped out some... What were they? What did they? There were some goblins, I think it was. Some hobgoblins that they worked with up here and like helped them deal with like a shambling mound. I think it was hobgoblins. I may have to look at the map because I'm drawing a blank. Oh, I just gave them all generic tokens. I don't remember what they were. I'm pretty sure they were hobgoblins though. I'll have to look. I'll have to look at my recaps. So they've been making their way up here. Now they're in a race against their werewolf friend, the dragonborn turned werewolf, because when their player character died out here, one of the players made a new character who was a dragonborn, was working with them until here. Now we have another character who's like he's a divination wizard, so he's actually from Cardis, and he's like, I know that my king is out here, I'm gonna go find him. I was like, great, perfect, awesome excuse to still be involved in the main plot, and also to get you out here. So their goal is to get the weapons or whatever it is they need in here, which I have to figure out what that is. And then they're going to try to get up here and recruit some allies and then go retake Cardis. And that's going to be the campaign. And then we've talked about, okay, maybe they're going to go back into Zir and, like, clear this area out of, like go help out with a religious mess they made and, like, try to settle things down there. But I think we've already indicated, like, the player who played the king has kind of said, like, I think at that point I would just play a new character. You know, he said, like, at that point I'll send you out with someone else to go deal with that problem. I was like, okay, so if this campaign resumes, because we'll probably take a break after this and someone will play something else. That's kind of what I pitched to them, is we do a little bit of like a Dimension 20 format, where it would be like, okay, I will run something for like 13 sessions in 5th edition 2024. Let's get that system. 5.5, we can call it 5.5 now. I forgot about that. Let's run a little bit of 5.5. Let's get the system under our belts, and then let's play around with some other games. And I know they're all champing at the bit to dig into some others. But we're also really enjoying this campaign. Now, I don't know how long this, you know, it surprises me with the twists and turns it takes, because this is kind of being a hex crawl, which is what someone asked about. First of all, Lady Lags a lot, welcome. Gur Hines, glad to have you here, but I understand it is late in Ireland. I'm going to try to live stream some more this week, and it will definitely be earlier in the day. So, fare thee well. I'll see you. I'll see you next time. Allison of Ol, what other games are lined up? We don't have anything else lined up. I don't think anyone else is really committed to anything. I know that there has been talk of something like a Star Trek adjacent system, but I think a lot of them want to run like original systems. Like they kind of like are developing their own systems, which cool. Like even if it's just for home games, I don't think they're trying to publish anything. I think they're just like, I have an idea, and I'm like they're sort of mapping out their systems. And so they are not committing to anything right now. Let's see. I had some great questions down there, but I'm going to come back to those in a minute, because Steven had... Ooh, actually, before we get to Steven's questions, we had Innocence That's Me asked, where do you get your maps from? Do you create them or from a place like Cheipeku? I'm using Cheipeku a lot lately, and it's great, especially with a hex crawl, which someone asked about a second ago. Hex crawls are much easier when you have Cheipeku. But this map is actually from a module. So this is from... I found this on DM's Guild? No. Drive-Thru RPG? Well, no, actually, I went to... Speaking of Matt Colville, I went to adventurelookup.com, and I was looking for dwarven dungeons, and that led me to this one, and this was perfect because... Oh, it's not in this book, but this map roughly corresponds with this one. Like, it kind of feels, you know, there's a little dip up here at the bottom. There's a little dip up here. It's like, okay, this, I can absolutely see how this would fit in and be the map for that mega dungeon. Fantastic. So that's part of that module. For the actual hex crawling, I am using Cheipeku. I can just show you. I can just show you which ones I've deployed in my games. I've been using them ever since. So this is where we started. They were in the prison of Yuan-Ti. This is like an orc prison, but it worked perfectly well. Then there was a hag encounter that I was prepping that never really saw the light of day. But this was going to be the map if they ever went to go see the hag. Then this desert... This, I think, was just to, like, give them a vibe of the city that they went to. The first city. Like, this is kind of tonally what to expect. Then there was a dungeon that was out of a book. I was able to upload, you know, one of the maps. The other one, I don't remember why I couldn't. But the first one I was able to upload. But yeah, even things like Crossroads. You know, at one point there was a random encounter. So they had to fight with some gnolls on this map. And it's nice. It takes like 5 minutes. But I've got pretty patient players. This is the tavern where one of the... that turned out to be currently occupied by werewolves. I wanted some sort of like weird magic tavern because I like them, right? I like the idea of like weird magic taverns that you might find on the road. And I rolled for, and partly this was also inspired by, whoa, I just shook the hell out of my table. This was inspired by a tavern in Tyranny of Dragons that I never got a chance to run. And that tavern had some werewolves in it. And it wasn't supposed to, or like it was, but then like the creators, because it was written by Kobold Press for Wizards of the Coast, and they were like, we wouldn't have put werewolves in that encounter if we'd known how deadly they were going to be. We didn't have the final math on these monsters yet, so it's like they're overpowered. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it would have been werewolves, but instead it's berserkers. I don't remember. But ever since then, I think it is werewolves, and they were like, that's too powerful. Don't do that in your home games. But I was like, I'm gonna. So in this game, I put some werewolves in a tavern. Some like nicely dressed gentlemen who were very clearly like sketchy guys, and the implication was these are not actually nobles, they're just wearing the nobles' clothes. And it was just like, okay, you guys have this creepy place, you can spend the night here, what are you gonna do? And they ended up winding up in a fight with these guys, and it was a whole thing. And I basically established that this is like a fairy enchanted tavern where I don't remember, how did I describe it? I was like, it's safe for travelers, but because the werewolves never leave, what did I establish? I'm now completely blanking on the lore I came up with in the middle of the session. I found some clever workaround for like, this is sacred ground, but they're getting around it because they haven't checked out or something like that. Dang, this is gonna bother me. Oh, well, but the point is the werewolves have taken over this tavern that's supposed to be like a sanctuary. Oh, that's what it was. No harm can come to guests of the tavern, so the werewolves have bought up all the rooms. So no one else can check into the tavern, so now the werewolves basically just act as this, like, snare, killing and eating anybody that comes in, and sometimes infecting them with lycanthropy and turning them into other werewolves. So that's what it was. So that was a really fun... I came up with that in the middle of the session, which is why it took me so long to remember it, to, like... justify what their plan here was. Then another random encounter, they met some hobgoblins, and I didn't want them to be just evil, and so they ended up being like, okay, we can work with you, we can help you out with the problem you're dealing with, so you don't have to keep attacking people on the road. The reason you're attacking people on the road is because you've been forced out of your swamp. Let me go see if we can help with that problem. They ended up fighting a shambling mound, and this is another Chepeku map. This was a map that I grabbed that was going to serve as... Whoa. Oh, that's right, I never loaded it because they never went here. Sorry, my mouse just died because it does that sometimes. There we go. Spineguard Keep, which is like the big settlement here that like guards the maw, the pass. It's showing up as fog and cloudy because that's the default, because they never went here because one of them got turned into a werewolf and the other two just fled into the forest. And they're like, shoot, well, he knew we were going to Spineguard, so we can't go to Spineguard. I was like, yeah, well, that's a fair point. I have really screwed you guys over here. Then I just uploaded a map that they could just draw on. This is not from Calabris. But then, like, when they were running around in the mountains, just grabbed some random environment and then was like, okay, this is really useful because automatically these Chepeku maps are going to be much more tactically interesting than anything I would just come up with off the top of my head. You know, when they were trying to get away from these saber-toothed tigers in the mountains, They're like, oh shoot, I rolled a 1 in our attempt to escape, and I was like, oh, perfect. This is the map I wanted to use anyway. Kaboom! You've walked into a corner, and now you're boxed in, and these tigers attack you here. Now, obviously, it was like 3-4 level characters, plus a werebear who they'd met at this point. It was a fast fight, and what I've been really trying to keep in mind, and which I fail to do so often, is not everything should just stay and fight until the bitter end. Once one monster dies, everyone else should start to retreat and run. I think, because they unfortunately they lost to, they didn't lose a character to the gnolls, but they did get attacked by gnolls twice because one of them escaped. And then now we're getting into the maps that are actually from the book that I'm using. Also, I use Owlbear Rodeo also for my Monsters of the Week campaign, which is set in modern America, in Los Angeles. So, like, I also have this map of all the in and outs in Long Beach. These are really where the in and outs are located in Long Beach, and they were trying to track down a zombie contamination. I will do a live stream probably Wednesday doing prep for my next Monster of the Week campaign. We'll talk more about that then. But right now I'm trying to focus on prepping for Calabris. So we're going to talk about that. This was the map for... Oh, no, I used this. This was Monster of the Week. This was the source of the zombie infestation. But we'll talk about that another day. Kevin asked an unrelated question. I've watched a lot of Critical Role Campaign 4. What are my thoughts on it? Episode 31 was them taking a break until August. Yeah, I know that they are taking a break because they're doing... Well, first of all, I think Brennan is on paternity leave, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, thumbs up. Or Abria's on maternity leave. Someone has a leave for parenting. Maybe Brennan's paternity leave already happened, but Abria's is coming up. But also, they're doing Age of Umbra. And I'm excited. I have only seen the first 4 episodes of Campaign 4. Just because it's been difficult to find the time to sit down and watch those. I do need to catch up with some Campaign 4. I was thinking about that a lot. Especially with the break that they're on right now. I got, 2 months? Now would be a perfect time to at least start chewing through that backlog. No, at least month, maybe 2. I don't know when they're coming back in August. At least a month, maybe 2. Stephen Fox, am I running this as a point crawl or a hex crawl? I guess I don't know the difference between those. I think I'm treating it as a hex crawl. I'm doing my best impression of a hex crawl. Let's see. Or is the Grayscale map that looks like a tube map 2 layers of the same world? Oh, and you're asking about this map. So this is just a dungeon map. This is just a mega dungeon map. So this is all one location, one environment. So you can see that each of these... This is all underground, so these are all entrances. It's basically their version of the Mines of Moria. This is published by Greg Gillespie. Don't know who that is, but it is meant for any old-school role-playing game. I'm not really playing an old-school role-playing game. I'm playing very much the opposite, which is 2024 D&D, or 5.5. But, this gives me a good framework to sort of play on. I did have them fight a Roper, which when they were level 4 or 5 was a real nightmare. But because I knew we had a change to our schedule coming up and I didn't know how long, I just was like, let's just get into the dungeon rather than do another week of you guys going across the top of the mountain and fighting saber-toothed tigers or whatever. I'd scaled the Roper down. I normally have not been doing that. Anything that comes up randomly, they got to deal with it, right? I'm doing a lot more random encounters. I'm really heavily leaning on the Xanathar's Guide random encounters chart, and then using 2024 stats of these monsters. So they have fought some crazy things in this campaign. They fought the first character who died to 2 giant scorpions in the desert. Maybe it was 3. I think it was 3 giant scorpions in the desert, and one of them just got grabbed and just dragged, killed instantly, dragged under the sand. And they're like, "Well, fuck." We can't really do anything about this. He's dead. He's fully dead. Let's see. I'm going to catch up on some chat here. Yeah, Zephy, you said, I've long since stopped trying to predict campaign lengths. Just do things like, we will play to this level or this story and keep deciding if we keep going or stop at those checkpoints. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're basically saying once we do the reclaiming Cardis, My guess is they're probably going to be. I mean, they could be almost level 10 by then. I'm using experience points tracking, which I have not done in quite some time. But it makes sense for this campaign to give them experience points and handle it that way. Let's say. Innocence, that's me, said, if you're... Whoa, I jumped way down. No, I didn't. Never mind. If you're looking for suggestions of games to play, I'd be happy to suggest Legends of the Mist or City of Mist. You know, I have had City of Mist recommended to me before. And along those lines, Absolso said, have I run Draw Steel yet? We have not played Draw Steel. We have not played Daggerheart. And I also want to take this group through Shadowdark. I know they would really like that system. We just have not played it together since then. We really wanted to start with, at least I did. I wanted to start them out on 2024 on 5.5 just so we could, like, experience it, see what it's like. Because it's so much easier for people to recruit people to play 5.5, and I wanted them to experience it as players so that we could all share it together, but also so they could maybe bring it to their tables and be like, okay, if you want to play D&D with me, I know the new system, let's play that. And so that's been a lot of fun. Also just like, I see. Just call me Inno. Got it, Inno. Will do. Just to give us a chance to say, like, let's explore some player options from this new system. I'm not saying that one character keeps dying over and over again so he can experience all the different player options. I'm just saying, no, he is just very bad luck. Gillespie, cool, he did the Dragon Slayer RPG. Oh, okay. Awesome maps. Running more, often shorter, varied games is something me and my group would like to do. But both me and the other person who runs most often end up running really long games because we want to put so much into them. Yep, Lady lags a lot. I completely sympathize. This one has certainly blossomed beyond my expectations, so I definitely understand. Steven said, I hear very strong things about Land of Eames Mucklands for pre-published campaigns / settings if you want hex crawls. That's good to know. I have know very little about Land of Eames other than just like the elevator pitch, which is like Lord of the Rings plus Muppets, which is like, that's cool. I like those things. So I do want to check that out at some point. Okay. I've not told this story on the channel yet because it sounds so creepy. This was maybe February or March. I was out walking around with the kid. We were at the park. It started to rain. Put him in the stroller, covered him up. Or I don't even think he was in the stroller. He may have just been like wearing a jacket, and I was just bundling him. And I walked him home, and I passed by a house I usually don't pass by because we were taking a different route back from the park. And someone's garage was open, and I saw in their garage they had a shelf, and I saw a D&D starter set. I don't know which one. Something from 5th edition or 5.5. So it could have been Phandelver or any of the other ones since then. And I saw a box of Land of Eames. And I was like, if it wasn't bucketing rain, I would find some excuse to like... Which, by the way, good that it was bucketing rain because my instinct was, how can I find a way to like stand around here on this random street corner until I can see the owner of this house? Which is the worst impulse to have. But I was like, I want to talk to someone here who may be nerdy, who lives like 2 blocks away, 3 blocks, 4 blocks away. But I was like, this is such an inopportune opportunity. Like, this is such a bad time for this. But like, actually, maybe it's a good time because I shouldn't do that. Anyway, unfortunately, I've not crossed paths with that neighbor since. I've not been by that house that often because it's not the path that we usually take back from the park. And the times I have walked past, which I have done, just never seen the garage open, so I don't get the opportunity. So it's a bummer. I can't stalk my neighbor. Let's see. Catching up on the chat. Stevens, you said the next campaign we're running is meant to be 3 to 5 sessions, but due to our group's pacing for the GM, it is for that reckoning, it's going to take us 8. Yeah, that's still way shorter than anything we run, so fair enough. Al, son of Ol, ever use things like morale rules for that? You're talking about having characters retreat from fights? I have just been using intimidation checks sometimes. Basically saying like, okay, you've killed... Sometimes I'm like, okay, you killed the gnoll leader. The hyenas would run away, right? Obviously. Or the other gnolls would run away. But that was also like partially me as a GM being like, okay, these characters are about to die if I don't do this. So like, how can I get the gnolls out of here? Killing the head gnoll does make sense. But sometimes I leave it to an intimidation check. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna bail you guys out. You have to roll and figure it out. Watcher DM, welcome. You said the old school stuff works great for 5e. I ran a whole campaign of Black Marsh using 5e and it was dope. That's cool. I want to. I'm probably gonna run a. We'll see. Cross fingers, knock wood. Might run a Tales from the Yawning Portal campaign soon, maybe for people on Start Playing, like paid people who want to play a little D&D. It's tough to ask anybody to do anything during the summer because people don't have like a lot of free time. So I don't know. Maybe I will not do that. It's gonna also depend a lot on my availability, which is kind of up in the air right now. But that's something I'd like to do, and those are old school adventures. I played in a friend's campaign, and we ran through Against the Giants from Tales from the Yawning Portal. A good chunk of that book, a good chunk of that adventure. I don't think we did the whole thing. I think we got sidetracked on other tasks. And then we did a Tomb of Horrors in a different, like, as just a one-shot. I talked about that in another video, where it wasn't linked to that campaign. It was just like, let's sit down and do some Tomb of Horrors, which I think he was using. We were using 2014 D&D for sure, and I think he was using the rules, the write-up from Tales from the Yawning Portal. He was using the 2024 version, but he also had like gone and done a lot of research and like gotten old handouts from other editions, and like that included images, like here's you getting stabbed with a spear coming through a door, or like when he wanted to show like, oh, this is what the room looks like. He was using illustrations from the old school versions, so he may have also pulled some mechanics. I'm not sure. Sir Davos asked, say, Mike, do you think you'll ever make a video on one-on-one campaigns? Not like prologues like you talked about last year, but whole long campaigns? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I've written it down as like a possibility. I have never run one, so most of my thoughts would be theoretical. Theoretically, it seems cool, but it's tough. It's tough because like I really like the community aspect of D&D. Much more so than just getting together with one person, and that's not like doesn't matter who the person is. It's just like part of me always wants to be like, this is a group hobby, so it's really tough for me to like cross that leap. But I also have some people who I see often enough that I'm like, oh, I should just do one-on-one game with you. But so far nothing like that has ever happened. If it ever does, I'm sure I'll talk about it on the channel, because I'm whether success or failure, it would lead to a lot of interesting lessons. Yeah, Zephy, so many systems, so little time. Exactly. Zephy, you said your group has a bad habit of playing one game for a long time, which is great, but also doesn't leave room for trying new things. Yeah, that's exactly right. Said, if your group is into darker settings, Blades in the Dark is a great game. Stalker Geek Mike. Stalker Geek Mike's pretty good. Super Creep Mike, I also like. That is not one from here. I've been called that before in other contexts, but it applies here. Steven, you said you want to play Blades. The only Forged in the Dark system that you've played is Greenwood Outlaws. You hear good things about Slug Blaster. Fair enough. VGM Paladin, hello, said maybe you have some DM advice. All my melee want to quit because the others are either too chaotic, mean, or passive in character. Talking it over didn't help earlier, so not sure if I can salvage. Hey, am I on? Why am I seeing chats on the display version that I'm not seeing on? Oh, is it not showing everything? Am I not seeing the Twitch ones? That's annoying, because I see someone said Mike. Oops, that didn't work. Who is that? This Twitch person. Yeah, Twitch is not showing up. Well, that's annoying. Oh, wait. Am I dumb? Have I only been reading the YouTube chat this entire time, and there was another tab for multi-stream, and that one has not been? Yeah. So I've been looking at the wrong tab, and I've been completely ignoring everyone from Twitch. Twitch viewers, hello, welcome. Please feel free to throw in your chats. Oh, I did not realize that this tab was only showing me YouTube, but it says YouTube right on the top. That's silly. Hello, Twitch people. Have I just been looking at the YouTube pop out? Basically. Hello, Cloudion. It's a test stream. You're right, Annie. It's a test stream. Okay, let me go back and finish the other messages that I was reading, and then we'll pop over and go chat with the Twitch people and see what they have to say. DM advice. I was being asked about DM advice. All my melee want to quit because the others are either too chaotic, mean, or passive in character. Talking it over didn't help earlier, so I'm not sure if I can salvage. Yeah, it is tough when it sounds like people have different play styles. I'm actually running just a similar-ish problem, which is... Oh, hold on. Just want to check and see. Okay. What was the word I was looking for? In our home game, we had a major misalignment that finally seems to have gotten resolved, where it was like, oh, one player does have like a different objective than everyone else in terms of what they want from the game, and this is now starting to cause like a real problem, like a real clash over and over again. And I'm hoping that it's resolved. It's possible we're not going to get a chance to play again until August, just because July is schedule-wise fucked. It's not because of any of the drama. It's literally because July is just crazy for everybody. But yeah, VGM in terms of it's tough to know exactly what would happen. Like nothing. It's tough to know exactly what like the solution is because I'm not in your game. I don't necessarily know. Buster, welcome. Thank you for the subscription. Welcome. And also, looks like that worked. Let's see. If someone does not like that everyone else in the group is too chaotic or mean or passive, I definitely have been there, and it's possible they are at the wrong table, like, or in the wrong group. It's just not the right fit. That unfortunately would suck, and hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully you can find like a path forward. I obviously don't know them well enough to know what that would look like, but it's possible that is the only solution. And just based on what you've described to me, how you've described it, that is where my first thought goes, is like, ooh, if you don't like a chaotic group, that's a hard problem to solve. The A Rose TW said, "Hi Mike, found you through Critical Role and Megaphone Man." Oh, that's fantastic. Welcome. Love Mega. We have been chatting a lot lately. Like Mega's like a really close friend in the industry, and we just don't get a chance to collaborate as much as we would like to. But there's more we want to do together. But I'm very glad that you found me. Welcome. Sir Davos, you thought that something I would have run for my wife. No, my wife, I think, also just likes the community aspect of D&D more than like the actual gameplay. She doesn't play D&D because like that's her preferred hobby. She plays it because like that's what we're doing with our friends. If we were also doing like board games or puzzles, like I don't think she would necessarily care. It's more about just being with them. She's not like a diehard D&D fan. So yeah, so I think a solo game with her would be the exact opposite of what she wants from the game. Let's see. Now we have all the YouTube stuff. Test stream. Welcome. Hello. How's everyone doing? Cloudion, welcome. Michi, you've been chatting amongst yourselves. Let's see. Any other news? No, I think we're caught up. Hello. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Press the wrong button. All right. All right, so let me figure out what's happening in our next session, because this is very straightforward now. They are just in a dungeon. This is entrance D, West Gate. Forgotten Star 89, okay? Nobody take a bunch of screenshots of this. Like, if you want to read this, go pick it up. Okay. No, that's not it. Entrance C. Is this it? Entrance D? There we go. The Forgotten Stairway. In the early days of Gungathal, which is not the name. We're using a different name. I do want to talk to chat. Like Zephy, it's true. I want to talk to chat. I want to hang out with you all. If I just want to do D&D prep, I turn off the camera. Since the exodus of the dwarves, a mountainslide destroyed the carved stone staircase and was never replaced. Oh, that would have been good for me to properly read and describe that. Instead, something or someone rough-hewn stairs cut up the Let's see, we're already past this. They think they decided not to go with any of these other rooms. They're not tempted. Because, I mean, that's sort of the challenging thing, right? This is not a typical Mega Dungeon campaign. They want to keep going into the next. They want to go towards their very clear goal. And this is kind of, we talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of old school versus new school. Like, which system do you use? The tricky thing about the way people play games like modern D&D is that they want to head towards the objective. That's actually the main conflict that we just had in our current group, which is that, Al, son of all, have a good night. Enjoy your England bedtime. Bye. The challenge that we had is that we had one player who was probably much more, who would want to check most of this and be like, what cool stuff can we find? And everyone else is laser focused on what is the goal. So they're heading towards S18 because they are heading towards a goal. So how do you get to S18? Oh, you know what? I bet you it's in... What chamber is this? 3? Where would this be? A large 7-foot stalagmite. Yep, they fought that. That was a roper. That was a whole problem they had to deal with. Towards S18 on the Duero Deep Hex map. There are numerous partial collapses along both walls and the ceiling of this passageway. The rusted armor and skeletons of both mountain dwarves and Duergar are littered across the passage. Okay, so that's what we're going to open with. So... Zephy, is that a modern RP thing? I don't even think it's a modern RP thing. I think it has to do with when you come into the hobby and, like, what is your influence, right? If you come in more as a video game fan, I think you play this way, right? Like, these are all new players. So it's not like an old school... Let me put it this way. Old school dungeons are much more designed for you to, like, explore, and they have less of an obvious, like, quest hook, right? The quest hook that we're going into this dungeon for is not part of... And that's not always true. But in this case, it is true. That, like, if it's an old school design, the idea is you're going in to go in. You're going in to find cool stuff. Whereas, on the other hand, if you have more newer adventures, tend to be more narrative-driven. More, what is your objective? What is your mission? How are you going to try to save the world or save the princess? That kind of stuff. That's a grotesque oversimplification. That's just, like, the general... Because obviously there were old school adventures that worked that way, and there were new school adventures that work the old school way. Like, these are some oversimplifications. But in terms of the gameplay style, I think the main difference we're talking about is more like video games versus TV shows. You know, that's probably the best way to describe it. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm happy to keep talking about that, but I want to make sure it makes sense first. Asked, are there any cliches or tropes that you avoid, like the plague in your games, like meeting in a tavern, or BBEGs who are mustache twirling and cartoonishly evil, or haughty elves and surly dwarves? No, I love all of those things. Are there any... I mean, I think the main one is just, like, overtly evil. Yeah, Rose, absolutely. Ask a question. Go for it. Overtly evil species of humanoids is the main trope that I think I avoid. I think if I didn't like tropes in general, I wouldn't like D&D. Like, people play D&D and they, like, don't interact with, like, the tropes and the world building and that kind of stuff because they very much make it their own. I like engaging with, like, the tradition and the history and that means, like, adapting stuff, of course. But, like, even stuff like alignments. Like, if alignment was a deal breaker, I probably wouldn't enjoy D&D, you know? And D&D, maybe that's a bad example because it's so disconnected from the main gameplay. But that's sort of would be, like, if I didn't like sort of like I love villains like Vecna and Orcus and Vecna and Acererak, and I really like Vecna and Tiamat. who's the other one that I really like? Vecna. I like him. So I love cartoonishly evil villains. And I'm like okay with doing a meet in a tavern. It's tricky because it is sort of a narrative dead end. Just like it's tough because it's like you just throw them into a pit together and you go role play. And a lot of them are like, okay, what does that mean? And so like giving them something to do or interact with is better. But on the other hand, there's the tradition aspect where it's like, I like it as tradition. It's fun. It's neat. But that I think those are, I'm sure there are more tropes that I'm not thinking of, but the major one is just the idea that like all orcs are bad, all drow are bad. That's the stuff where I'm like, no, thank you. Don't care for that. You know, asked, but do I like Vecna? He's all right. Okay. So I need to... I'm just going to screenshot this so I make sure I include it. Oh, there's like gear in his tummy. Oh, I forgot. I should probably text my players that. But then they're heading towards S18 on the Dwaro Deep Hex map. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so this is the tricky thing. I'm trying to figure out like what these passageways are. There's not really a room for S18, I believe. So I think... Yeah, that's true. I did call it tummy. You can tell I have a child because of the language I use. Let's see. What is... P4. Okay. So they're heading towards the Black Mines. And then P3 is Dwaroheim. And then P6, the Foundry. So it's going to be P4, P3, and P6. Now, we're only going to be able to run for 2 hours this week. We're hoping we're going to do longer games next time because we're only playing every other week. Maybe that'll be possible. It's going to depend a lot on, you know, some very understanding spouses, which we're gonna come back for that conversation soon and be like, hey, what did your wife say? What did my wife say? So we'll see. It depends. Everyone is, most of them are married. Most of them are dads, including myself. So let's see. P4 is the two-headed king. So I only need to worry about P4 today is the point I was making, because I know there's no way they're getting past that. And in fact, what I'm wondering... Oops, I don't remember what page number it was. 149? 149. But I'm wondering if I should also throw in some random encounters in the dungeon on the way there. Especially if I want to make this like a drow dungeon. Inno asked, how intuitive do I find a world anvil? Easy, takes a bit, needs a manual to figure out. For me, it depends on what I'm trying to do. I'm probably more in the takes a bit crowd just because I go so long without using it. That's my main problem, is that I use it and then I shall we say, procrastinate my prep, and then whenever I'm trying to get back into it, I'm like, oh yeah, I have all this stuff I want to get done. And so that's the other reason I'm actually wanting to live stream my prep, is so that I will actually do it. Now, it can be very straightforward if I'm making articles like this, right? So if we want to look at this in the view and world, what the hell? That's not even a little bit what I was trying to do. How did I... Oh, I made my dock pop up. That's why. Who was it? A-Rose TW. Hopefully you heard me say that, yes, you can ask a question. I would love to answer your question. So an article like this, very, very easy to do. There was something I was trying to do the other day that I was having a devil of a time figuring out. I need to actually... Oh, okay. There we go. A Rose asked a question. Fantastic. Let me answer that in a minute because I need to write down. I need to ask World Anvil a question because there was something I wanted to do, and I could not figure it out, and I don't know if it's just fully user error, or if the system has been updated and the tutorials have not been updated to reflect it. Because there's something that I cannot find the button for. About to linker, especially because it's something that I've called out. I've called out in my videos. I know I've done it before, and I can't find it again. I'm like, wait, I know I've used this. I've used it. I wouldn't have talked about it on my channel if I hadn't used it before. But now I don't remember how to do it. Okay, A Rose TWS. As a newer fan with a disability, is it cool to request that even at full health, my character doesn't walk because I can't walk IRL? Yes. Now, some people are assholes about that, but normal people will say yes. So there's something called the combat wheelchair. And this was made as a supplement to be like, hey, if you want to play D&D as someone who has mobility issues and needs a wheelchair, like, here is... Oh, there we go. Here are some rules for it, and it's popped up on Critical Role. Like, it's been used. It's just a independent supplement that somebody made because they thought it would be neat. It is completely free. This is probably also not the most current version. In fact, if I bet you, yep. So V4 is in his username. Let's see if there's a pinned... I don't see the pinned comment for V4, but I'm sure if you Google, let's see. If you Google V4, is it just, no, that's just the, oh, well, here we go, Linktree. The contact info is under his dead name, but he clearly knows that. Not an issue there. You know what? I bet you it's on Blue Sky. I bet you that's where the more current version is. But, so this is the idea. The idea is to be like, here is a mobility aid you can use in your game, and it's like meant to allow you to do cool stuff like go upstairs and do other things that would be difficult for someone to do without a mobility aid. But also to interact with the dungeon, you know, which is to say, like, well, here's a perfect example. Like, here's how you can basically use the combat wheelchair as a way to, like, move up, like, climb a wall, right? That kind of thing. Now, this launched a whole stupid discourse of where the stupid people said, well, why would you have a combat wheelchair? Wouldn't you just use magic to make you walk again? And those people are assholes, because what they don't understand is why you might want to play someone who isn't, like, genetically perfect or completely not disabled. Like, they don't understand that, like, the fantasy doesn't always have to be that you play the Ubermensch. Like, I'm not saying that that's how they feel, like, about, like, normal people. They just, like, they literally don't understand that power fantasy does not mean that you have to play Steve Rogers, right? You can also be like, what if I was in D&D? What if someone like me was in D&D? What would that be like? Isn't that cool? Like, wouldn't it just be cool to do that? And so normal people will say, yes, absolutely. Whether you want to use a combat wheelchair or some other, or you don't want to, that's fine too. If you want to play a character who doesn't have full mobility, that is absolutely cool. You just need to make sure that your GM is not an asshole who's going to be like, oh, someone cast Healing Word on you and now you can walk again because it's just an injury. You'd be able to heal. Those people are assholes, and they don't understand what you're looking for from the game. So that's the main thing. They just talk to them and be like, this is why I want to do this. And if they don't understand it, then they're an asshole. I'm sorry. Like, that's how it works. Right, maybe levitating or wheelchair. Yeah, there's absolutely... It doesn't have to be combat wheelchair. That's just an example that kicked off a big stupid discourse, but it's worth mentioning the discourse because I think it is useful to know that there are some people out there who just don't get it. Right, and that's the main thing. They just don't... It's, you know what it is? It's so similar to people who are like, why would you play a human in real life when you could play... Why would you play a human in a game when you could play a human in real life? It's kind of that same thing of like, you don't understand. I want to play the person who is... either, you know, more like myself, or even if you're not disabled, like even if you're just like able-bodied individual, you can still play a character in a wheelchair because, like, hopefully you're doing it in a respectful way, which I am making a video about that in general, about like playing people who are unlike yourself. And this is a good example of that, actually. But like games like Daggerheart encourage you to do that. What if you play someone who has a hearing disability or you know, or vision disability, things like that? Like, because those people exist. They exist in our world. They would exist in a fantasy world too. And the people who are like, well, wouldn't a cleric just heal it and make it go away? No. First of all, no. That's not necessarily how it works. And also, even if it was, that's not the point of the character. Like, but so the people who can't get that have, I think, boring imaginations and are not worth playing D&D with. Most people, I think, would understand, and you would not be at all a problem. And there are tools out there to figure out how to do it. If you play Daggerheart, there's a whole page of information about playing characters who have some sort of like magical assistance for interacting with the world, you know, counteracting a disability or circumventing a disability, I guess is the word I should use. You know, whether it's a hearing aid or whatever it is. That's a whole part of the Daggerheart rulebook, to be like, hey, here's how you make sure to incorporate that into your character if you want to, which is neat. Hello, Shades of Autumn. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Zuzuzin. Welcome. Hopefully that's pronounced correctly. Yes, Stephen Fox, good call for Pathfinder. I couldn't have told you what it is, but yes, Pathfinder, unsurprisingly, has gotten there through official methods, whereas the one in D&D is just a third-party supplement. Not terribly surprising. All right, let's look at the Black Mines. The Duergar ceded the Black Mines, and specifically the mining of coal, to the Trolls of the Black Claw tribe. The Trolls formed part of the army that laid siege to Gundagathol, which is going to be... What is the name of the dungeon in Calabris? Dardaithar. Kalazambar, that's what it was originally. Kalazambar. I knew I had it written down. Oops, where am I looking? Here we go. The Trolls are poorly organized. You know what I can do? I can add a little bookmark. Add a little bookmark here. Could the bookmark say Black Mines? The bookmark should probably say P4. Black Mines. There we go. I'm just trying to make this a little bit easier for the next session. The Trolls are poorly organized and only remain together due to the strong hand of Yuklos, the two-headed troll chieftain. They do know there's a two-headed king. That's all they know about him. Thank you, Shades of Autumn. I'm glad to be here. The Trolls use dwarf slaves. I can't talk. The Trolls use dwarf slaves to mine coal. I think what I'm probably gonna do is replace the Trolls with Drow. And they're working for a two-headed troll. And the reason why is because one of my players, the one who said, I want a cache of stuff, a cache of dwarven gear in these tunnels, I said, okay, there's two sections of the map. If we go back and look at the map itself, at the Spinelands of Calabris, there's two halves. This part's taken over by Duergar, and these parts are taken over by Drow. I said, do you have a preference? You can decide which one your father lived in and left his stuff in, or we can just roll. And he said, I mean, I do like Drow. I said, then it's in the Drow side. That's fine. He wants to fight some Drow. Let's go fight some Drow. He's taken over the Drow, and the Drow have taken over someone else. Who are they using as slaves? I don't know. I have to think about that. Are they just using, is it just the men, or is it some other group that they've enslaved? Let's look at the random encounters for Underdark. And let's see what... they've got slave mind flayers. No, that doesn't make any sense. Ooh. I had an idea. That might be stupid. It probably is. Yeah, I don't think I could justify that. Well, I could. I could justify whatever I want. I'm awesome. I don't know why I said that. You know, goblins is good. Have they encountered goblins in this campaign at all? I'm fairly certain they have not. Hey Rose, you said it's okay. The DM's your cousin. You can run him over if he says no. You know what? Then it sounds like it's worth asking. Yeah, I would say absolutely ask. There's no harm in asking, and yeah, let him know. There's also, let's see. I'm sure I can find a YouTube video. Now you'll get to see what my algorithm looks like, which I'm sure someone pointed out the other day. Well, let me add this to the watch later. Someone I was talking to the other day was like, "Your algorithm looks exactly like mine." I was like, "Yeah, you watch my channel." That's probably why. It was in my my Monster of the Week campaign. I'll add this to my watch later. What was I doing? Combat wheelchair. See if I can find. Yeah, so like look for this video with the creator talking about the combat wheelchair for the first time, and it'll offer like what the pitch for it is. You know, it's on the D&D Beyond channel. Always glad when someone recognizes some more news. My 3 biggest influences on this channel when I started it were probably, in terms of like formatting, 2 of them were Some More News and NerdSync was the other one. Those were the big inspirations on the channel when I first started out. Some Patrick Willems in there as well, but I've not kept up with that channel just because I'm behind on. Listen, I could show you all my. Do you want to see what's in my watch later? Do you want to see how many videos are in my watch later? Do you want to see that it is 1,200 videos? And I cleared out my watch later, and I moved some things into their own playlists. So that's what I'm like when you don't see me. Ooh, Bugbears is interesting. I do like goblins for this. My instinct is the drow have enslaved the goblins. The troll has like taken over the drow. The other option is the drow are the ones who are enslaved, and they're working for dwarves. But no, I've got like my character's like level 5. I think they would die if they had to fight a bunch of trolls. They would just explode. Where is campaigns? There it is. All right. Yeah, they're level 5. See if there's anything else interesting on this list that might be the workers. Ooh, I don't actually. It could be Duragar, or wait. Hold on. It could be elves from Talon Arafel. That's interesting. That may be what it is. They maybe just be some regular elves, and we don't know this because we haven't been north of the mountains for most of this campaign. The drow are going out there and abducting elves and dragging them in to work as slaves. Sure. Hell yeah, that works for me. That's cool. I am 2 paragraphs in to my prep today. The trolls use dwarf slaves, so that's going to be the drow use elf slaves. To mine coal, the coal is then prepared for shipment via pack lizards. Cool. Nothing wrong with that. Duragar warbands, we'll say drow warbands, arrive daily to return the unladen pack lizards and pick up the new shipments for transport to P6. Okay, so that's where we're going later. Cool. Mind flayers as slaves. That would be very difficult to justify. And also, because whatever would have conquered them would be of whatever level, could do that to mind flayers. And again, my character's a level 5. That would be quite the challenge. Interesting idea. I like it, but not for this campaign. Put it that way. Not for this game. Yeah, the black mines are designed for level 7 through 9, so we're going to scale this down a little bit from that. like P1 the lower halls and P3 the Dwarrowheim, which we're going to in a minute. Scale the dungeon or scare off the PCs if the average party level is significantly below the range. We're not going to do that. We're just going to scale it down. Routinely send war bands to ensure the coal ore is transported in a timely fashion to the foundries. Adding more Duragar or increasing the number of trolls would sufficient. Oh, so that's interesting. That reminds me. So adding more Duragar, which means the Duragar have this other position. I need to look at P6. I need to look at... But I do like that piece of art. I need to look at P6 and see what's going on there. Oops, I missed it. Because these definitely have to be swapped out with Drow. This may be where all the Drow are, which means I can do something different. The main reason I'm using XP instead of Milestone for this one is because we are doing a Hex Crawl, and I don't know what they're going to be facing, and I just wanted to Well, first of all, it was to properly take the system for a spin and see, like, what does it feel like to use XP for this? Because I don't know what XP feels like in 5.5. I barely know what it feels like in 5 because we just rarely ever used it. But especially for this campaign with the very random nature of everything they're encountering, where they're rolling their own random encounters and, you know, I'm having them roll in the charts. I have literally no idea what they're going to face, and every once in a while I might change things slightly, but usually I stick with whatever they rolled. It just feels more interesting to go with experience points for this one as a fun exercise. A-Rose, fair enough. Have a lovely evening, and I'm very glad that that was able to help. I hope it was able to help. I hope you have a fantastic time with your game master, and if they are not cool about it, tell them I said they have to be. And he'll be like, who's that? Who are we talking about? I don't know what that means. Let's see. Let's look at the Foundry. This is, I think, where they're going to be facing the majority of the Drow, right? Because all the Duragar are in the other section. So we're going to basically, in our minds, find or replace Duragar with Drow. After the siege, the Drow took control of the furnaces and the production of the iron goods. The two massive chambers each support 3 furnaces in the shape of hellmouths. Rad. Each set of 3 represents Thrander in the center, Durain to the right, and Genethor to the left. These are all, like, figures that are in this book. This is a very, very extensive tome. If this sounds interesting to you and you want to, like, explore more of this and, like, run something like this in your game, I would totally run a mega dungeon of just this campaign. It'd be very interesting to see what happens, especially in something like Shadowdark. In the Golden Age of Gungathol, non-dwarves were strictly forbidden from entering the Foundry. However, the Duragar treat the 3 dwarven gods and the sacredness of this complex with disdain. The mountain dwarves that work the furnace and forges are considered skilled labor to the Duragar. Oh, so there are dwarves in here. That's interesting. Most of these slaves were captured and pressed into slavery 250 years ago. Well, so in this case, it wouldn't be that long. These would basically be the ones who didn't get out. Ooh, cool. Ooh, my dwarven player is going to have a really fun time killing dark elves and saying, and rescuing enslaved people. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, I really hope he doesn't die. But he might. He's the cleric, too, so no one else can really help if he dies. Referee notes. The Foundry is an essential production facility, and the Drow garrison is substantial. Rather than a frontal assault, scouting and diversionary tactics will be critical for the player characters to achieve victory. If the Foundry is lost or the PCs manage to douse the furnaces, the Drow will respond in force from Gunfellic and retake it, which also provides opportunity. Not really super relevant to our cases, because they're trying to get out of here once this is done. Scaling and party level, 7 through 9. Adjust accordingly. Yep, okay. Discourage players from assault on the furnaces until they have carried out proper scouting and surveillance. Okay, good note. If the PCs are too low, demonstrate significant forces moving south to P4. Okay, not really relevant, but yeah, good to know. Too high in level, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I just want to get a sense of what's happening in this environment so I know. So let me look at the maps. Let me look at the maps. Nope. encounter areas. So there's P4. Let me open that up. That's east. That's so annoying. They're all opening on that window. That's west. And then we're going to need P6 east and west. Ah, come on. Okay. All right. And they are going... No, so there's still going to be dwarf slaves. It's just instead of Duragar, they're going to be captured by Drow. That's still the case. But this was still a former dwarven settlement, and I really like these slaves being dwarves. I like that a lot in this case. What was I looking up? S22. Okay, so they're probably going to go through... So they're going to come to this area first. Okay. Got it. Yes, that makes sense. Well, I mean, they'll go to these ones first, but we're not there yet. I told my players when I texted them yesterday when we locked down a time, I said, you cannot watch tomorrow's live stream. Now, one of my players I know does watch most of the stuff on my channel. I don't think the other one I don't think the other two really watch anything with any regularity. They might catch things every once in a while. But I did tell them, you can't watch this live stream. They said, okay, fair enough. Okay. I think Hall of Records, I believe... Ooh, that's a really good... I believe that is where they're trying to get to. I don't remember if that's the only one of those in this region. Because that's what I did. I went through this whole dungeon, and I looked for all of the Hall of Records there were. And I wrote them all down, and I had him roll to see which one he got. And he got one of these two. I don't think it really matters. So let's see. One of them is room 3. That would be very, very easy to get to, right? They come up here to the foundry. It can't be this one, because there's a chance that he could get in here and he would not find any of the slaves. So it can't be that one, because we want him to see the slaves. I mean, we can foreshadow them through other methods. This is a, you know, after some time in the dungeon, they're going to find it, but it would be nice to have to get past the slaves to get to the gear. Yeah, here's where we want it. 45. Perfect. Okay. Ooh, they use it as a slave pen. I might switch that description with this one. The door hangs on one hinge. It was plundered in haste long ago, and a thick layer of dust covers everything. No, probably not, though. Because then why would all this random stuff still be in here? That doesn't make any sense. I think what we're going to say is that this door is sealed by his heritage. Like, he has to open it with his, like, his blood. I like that. I'll have to go back in here. I'll figure out what else is in this magic item room later. Because, man, it's going to be interesting for... Just, I'm visualizing. Who knows what will happen? But, like, can't you kind of imagine they come in here, they find that all the dwarven slaves are working here still, they make their way through the tunnel, they find their way to 45, they open it, they go inside, they close it, and when they come out, they're wearing all this magic items, and they're, like, just cleaning house like Iron Man making his escape. That would be amazing. So, we've got dwarven slaves, we've got pack lizards, steeder pen, those are the big giant spiders. Amber mold. Icky. Shades of Autumn. I know you're asking the others, but I agree. I basically told my players now if you want to ask me questions about the end of session, because there's things I want to brag about and I need to like stop doing it. I have told my players, if you have any questions about how I ran it, or any questions about, anything that could have happened, ask me at the end of the campaign. Basically doing it like they do on Critical Role, which is to say, once this campaign is over, let's sit down and I'll answer questions about, why did something play out the way it did. And that has given a really good opportunity for my players to say, like, okay, if they want to know, they'll ask. And if they don't want to know, if they don't care, then I need some other outlet to tell people about it. That's the main thing that I've noticed is, like, I want to brag about, oh, that was so cool, and I didn't even expect this, and this happened, and you did this, and I wasn't expecting that. But my players sometimes don't want to hear it. And I have noticed that. And so if I don't know that my players definitely want to hear about what could have been, I try not to tell them anymore. So I did break that rule recently in my Monster of the Week game, but I shouldn't have. And even at the time I was like, why did I do that? That was silly. I didn't need to tell them what I thought they were going to do. Who did that help? All right, there we go. It's a little easier to read on stream now. Let's see. Partially collapsed. Drow Warriors. Warband Leader. Drow Warriors. I think this is all pretty straightforward. Here we go. The chamber is the quarters of Balbek, son of Blargurg, Whitebeard. Yeah, these are drow names. These are not drow names. I'll have to change them out. But we have a cleric down here, an evil cleric. That's perfect. That's so good because I have an evil. I don't have an evil cleric. Well, ostensibly, I don't have an evil cleric, but I have a cleric in here in my party, and he's coming here to help. So yes, good. Okay, good. I can do some foreshadowing. This is how I talk. That's my real voice. It's not my YouTube voice. That's my real voice. Yeah, Steven, it's tough because, like, even asking first, it's like, I don't know how to do it. It's like, can I tell you about X thing? Already is like putting them on a weird, awkward state. It's like, I need to normalize basically saying, if you want to hear about something, you let me know, and then I'll tell you if I want to tell you. Otherwise, I'll just tell you at the end of the campaign. Yeah. Sometimes it's excitement, and sometimes it is, boy, I was really expecting you to do something else, and that really, like, just talking to your friend, being like, wow, I thought something else was going to happen. I was really expecting that, and it didn't. And that doesn't have to be malicious, but we don't always think about how that feels to hear. So that's why that has taken me a long time to try to stop doing it. Let's see, we have another warband leader, more warriors. So I know I need to rename the priest. Is there anything else in here I need to know? He is in prayer to Dwargrim. Probably we'll say Lolth there. That makes sense. I'm excited for when we talk about the campaign after the fact, because there's so many things in this campaign that were complete coincidences that they would not believe. But I don't want to tell them that yet, because I think it would shape how they approached some of these topics. If they're like, oh, Mike wasn't actually planning this, I don't want them to think that. Oh, Zephy, welcome. Or thank you. Thank you to Percival. Dwarven slave, killer in Giant Spain. Okay, cool. So we have a living slave there. Oh, are these halflings? Tiny dwarf is a halfling slave in disguise. Taken as a raid on the surface. Okay, that makes sense. I believe it. Oh, that's super cute, Zephy. Meow. That's my response. The Durgo high priest made Sorbo his personal slave. Oh, interesting. Okay, okay. So they're trying to find him. Two Dargs. I don't know what those are. I wonder if they're in the back of the book. Let's see, where am I? Let me add a bookmark here. P6, Foundry, and what room was I on? No, I was past that. Room 16. Okay, let me check the back. Let's see what creepy crawly critters they might have back here. Huh. Awesome. This all rules. Where is... Is that it? No, it's fine. You can see all the Moria influence on this. Very, very heavily so. You know, especially with something like this. That's Moria. That's Moria. Moria. Oh, here's a two-headed king. Perfect. I'm going to need that. Might as well just screenshot it while I'm here. Ooh, that's smart. Okay. Rival adventuring parties? That's so good. Alright, here's the monsters. What was I looking for? Darg? Yeah, so it is like a subterranean species of lizard-like canines domesticated and bred for war by the Duergar. Yeah, but like, what if for Drow it was something different? I have to think about that. Oh, but I should bookmark the monsters. Toad huge, I missed that. Where was it? Toad huge. Sure enough. Well, listen, you don't want to mix it up with Toad regular. Or Toad small. Okay. Yeah, warriors, warband leader. Yes, these are unnamed characters, so these are not like the main things I'm looking for. I can figure out all that prep later on. Yeah, I don't think it's an Etten. I think so. The thing about trolls is that when they regenerate, sometimes they. This is the way I'm internalizing it. You know, like they said two-headed troll, right? They didn't say why. I have a justification for why, which is in Tyranny of Dragons, there is a troll with 4 arms. would that be? No. Not in... Oh, it was after this. It was in the hunting lodge. That's right. There it be. And the idea was that he got, like, his arms cut off, I believe, and it just grew back with 2 extras. Here we go. Forearm troll. Sometimes when a troll loses a limb, it regenerates 2 limbs to replace the one it lost. This can result in trolls with multiple arms. A forearm troll uses the troll stat block, except is a challenge rating 6 monster and has the following action instead. So, my rationale is, like, this thing got its head cut off. But you didn't use fire, so that's not enough to kill it, or it's a very powerful one. So, it basically came back with 2 heads. Now, no, I don't need to justify it. I know you're exactly right. I could just say it has 2 heads. It is what it is. But also, if it had its head cut off and then 2 new heads grew, that means the old head is somewhere else. That's the part that's really interesting to me. Is like, what does that mean? Like, that's just where my head went. They said 2-headed troll, and my thought was, oh, they cut off its head. That may never come up. Like, it may never come up that that's where that's where the origin was. But that's my rationale. It's also possible I could just say it's like, oh yeah, it's a cultist to the Demogorgon, right? I could absolutely do that. Let's see. We got another cleric here, but not named. So that's interesting. So the clerics still review the area, which is perfect for our drow substitution, because the drow are not just matriarchal, but they're a theocracy. Ah, here we go. A warband leader. Okay, so this one is named Plate Mail. This will be our fighter. This will be our equivalent to our king. Fantastic. I'll have to figure out who that character is. I'll need to make these characters, but that's okay. Right now we just have lots of just individual drow to deal with. And High Priest Brodgar Whitebeard. Is that the same one from here? No, so that's their child. Their son. Oh, that's interesting. That's neat. We have the father and son, or in this case, mother and daughter, probably, because of drow matriarchy. Nice parallel to our dwarf arriving here to honor his father. Just saying. Could be good. Could be fun. What do you mean? What dance? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. High priestess. Something. A drow priest, a drow cleric of Lolth. So I'll have to come up with that character. But so far I have 3 major NPCs to establish and foreshadow. Fitchies. Oops, that's not how it's spelled. Baalbek, son of Balgurg. Dalzok, warband leader. And High Priest Brogder. And those, so I know who those are, but then I have to basically say what are their drow versions. But I like that these can kind of act as counterparts to our main characters, right? We have the cleric, we have the warrior, who's like our king, and we have the... So we've got the mother and child paralleling the father and son idea. We have like the warrior working with another, like with a king. We have like maybe the idea of like a sycophant working for a king, because it's kind of what the other character in our party is the wizard who's like really reverent towards the king. Like kind of a fun way to kind of do a parallel to our heroes. Who's this? A slave. Okay, got it. Yeah, so these are... It's a dwarf slave. Okay, this is good. So these are dwarves who would probably know... Gelwar's father. They would remember him. They would be glad to know that he got out alive. And that he, you know, even if he's no longer alive, that he didn't have to suffer as a slave. Ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's going to be fun. Because they are specifically like, oh, well, no, hold on. Son of Nully, grandson. Yeah, so like, son of Gromley. Maybe they're not, maybe they're younger. Maybe they were born into captivity. You know, most of my games are online. I have one in-person game, but this is an online game right now. The in-person game is the one that's probably not going to meet until August, would be my guess. Dwargoyles? What? What's a Dwargoyle? That's what I want to know. We'll come back to that. I'm going to look at that. We'll come back to that page. I want to look up a Dwargoyle. What's a Dwargoyle? I have a guess. It's a dwarf gargoyle. They are created by Duergar clerics and are normally used to guard important locations such as priestly bodyguards. No, fuck that. They were made by the dwarves who used to live here, and they have now been taken over. Which maybe means there's a way to control them. That would be neat. If that was the case. Oh yeah, drow have spider mounts typically, and in my group doesn't have any arachnophobia issues, so yes, they will have some. So there's actually when they talked about, hold on. Okay, when they talked about steeders up here, steeders are giant spiders ridden by the Duergar, the dark dwarves. But I'm just going to turn them into giant spiders being ridden by the drow. There aren't a ton of them in here, but there are a few. The back of the crypt is dark. Mordrin. The door to this chamber is sealed and made of stone. There are 24 stone dials on the front of the door, representing A through Z. The dials are all in the down position. To open the door, they must spell the word Mundinhul by turning each respective... Wow. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, that's confusing. May have to come back to this when I'm actually prepping this area and see if I can do something. I don't know. That's a confusing puzzle. But I'll have to read when I actually read through this whole thing and I want to like look at stuff like that. I'll see if it's better foreshadowed. Otherwise, like, how would they know what name to put in there? That's a big question. Munidal, son of Munidrin, the mighty hammerhand. Yeah, there's some good shit in there. Yeah, when I'm actually prepping all these rooms, I'll need to go through there. Just looking for names right now. Any relevant names that I need to start foreshadowing. Here we go. So. This will probably be sealed. Then again, Okay, Zephy, fair enough. I'll probably only be going until, I would imagine, 40 minutes more at most. But Zephy, have fun. We got a pretty good group here. I'm not super worried about bots. Knock on whatever material this is. I have to figure out what I'm doing about the Hall of Records. I'm not going to solve that today because I don't really need to. We got time. Because they should be able to open other Halls of Records without the doors to open them. So the implication here is that there's some here that he just that they just missed. That seems to be the implication. Is like, oh yeah, there is scrolls and stuff and magic items. There's a luck blade in here, and the Drogar were using it as a slave pen, and also there's a luck blade. That feels very puzzling. Steven, that's a great question. It honestly depends on how much I need from the dungeon, right? For something like this, I want all that detail because I need something that's going to do a lot of the work for me. When I'm doing just a Shadow Dark dungeon, those are much more straightforward. Let me see if I have one in front of me. And then, you know, let me know if this is what you're talking about or not, if we're talking about something else. But I will open that up. It's on my Google Drive, so I don't want you to... I don't think I have any secrets in there, but, like, who knows what will come up when I search for things, you know? Could be... Who knows? Let's see. Boy, I haven't updated this in a minute, have I? Ooh, bummer. Bet you I lost some stuff. No, there we go. There was some cursed scrolls are here. Are the other cursed scrolls here? Yeah, we go. So, if we download... or not even download, just open this up. Let me look at the cursed scroll. Yeah, no worries, Zeffy. Go for it. Oh, that's weird. No, I don't want font access. I was just clicking to click. Let's see how they handle the dungeon in here. Yeah, so this is much more like statue and alcove, misshapen waxy lump, floor streaked with mud, walls slushy water. You know, much more minimalist. Howler prisoners, people, hunched pale humans with lank hair. The idea here is that you take this and then you go, okay, I'm going to come up with a way to describe it. I'm going to do more of the narration. That is the more... That's the exposure I've had to the OSR. As you say, I don't know if they're all normally like this and the Mega Dungeon is the exception, or it is just... This is how Kelsey writes her dungeons. You know, I don't know the answer to that. I wish I still had... Maybe I do somewhere. Maybe not. She had some, like, postcard dungeons as well. Is it this? The file won't open. It's probably this one. Could not be opened. Okay. I bet you it's just the file name. But like something like this is a postcard dungeon that is made for Shadow Dark. And oops. There we go, that's what I was looking for. So this is the entire description that you get with each of these words. So if we look at room 3. Fossil antechamber. Wet. Echoing silence. Black stone walls with a few glossy, horse-sized ammonite fossils. Gray slugs and floor puddles that writhe away from light. Each one has 2 out of 6 chance of restoring 1d4 hit points. Otherwise, violent vomiting for 1 round and an odd thirst for seawater. So the implication there is that's what happens if you... Oh, it says... Never mind. It says eating one. I just misread it. I thought it said each one. But I just can't read. Yeah, much... Still more detailed than what you're thinking. As you said, a trifold format seems popular at the moment. So 2 sides of letter paper folded into 3 columns. The postcard format is closer. Yeah, I guess I don't know the trifold format. I'm not familiar. I mean, I know what a trifold piece of paper is if I take my picture of Kent Trim, the Independent. You basically make a like that, like a pamphlet, like so, as opposed to what we see with the Cursed Scroll, which is the zine format. Oh, Shades of Autumn. So to answer that question, I can answer that. The OSR is the old school Renaissance, and the basic idea is that you take, envelope fold, exactly. You're taking all of these sort of design approaches from old school D&D, and then depending on the game system, you may have more modern design. That's the big appeal of Shadowdark, is it's basically 5e as a system, but way stripped down. But the idea is like, hey, this game style worked so well for the early days of the hobby. We drifted away from it for lots of reasons, but people don't like where it wound up. They don't necessarily like the modern adventures of D&D for lots of reasons. What if we ran things more like old school, which tends to favor more just like general exploration as opposed to like plots to save the world? That's not uniform. That's not one for one. That's just like generally the approach is more inspired by Conan or Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, which I don't know those books very well at all, but that's another major influence, is the idea of like, you are an adventurer. Your goal is to go on adventures. That's the entire objective. Now, the OSR also, like, because it's going to old school methods, there's a corner of that hobby that is very, like, traditionalist, conservative. They don't like the modern adventures because they're too woke. That is not across the board the case by any means. There are other people who just don't like the scale of modern adventures. They don't like it when it's, 10 levels in a book and you're never done with anything. Or they don't like it when everything is like huge, high end of the world stakes, because it's not the kind of stories that they enjoy in fantasy. It's less about playing Lord of the Rings and more about playing Conan or you are just explorers going out into the wilderness. My first exposure to the OSR was much more the conservative asshole side, and I've been very glad to see that is not the entire hobby. But it is mainly a style of, the other thing about OSR that's, I think, really cool is they don't really care what game you're playing, right? Like, I'm sure there are some with individual preferences who prefer, I know there's a game called the Index Card RPG. Bob Worldbuilder talks a lot about Dungeon Crawl, DCC game. Dungeon Crawl Classics. Yeah, Dungeon Crawl Classics, yeah. So there's Dungeon Crawl Classics, Index Card RPG, BX, I think, is one of them. Shadowdark, Five Torches Deep. There's a lot, like, and I think generally the approach is like, I made an old school dungeon, an OSR dungeon. Play it in whatever system you want to, right? It does not matter to them. As long as you're playing any dungeon crawling game, it'll be compatible. I just, yesterday, posted on my YouTube, in the community tab, I posted, where is it? Vagabond, the Vagabond Kickstarter. And the idea behind that, there it is, that is an old school game. And so one of the things you could have gotten in that Kickstarter, which you can still pledge, it's still available. I should have shouted them out in today's video, even though it didn't come out in time. I should have done that. Maybe I'll do that in the next video. There's some adventures here, and like all of this stuff is like, oh, here you can convert all of his Terran's material in Vagabond is, it's compatible with OSR, it's compatible with BX, it's compatible with Old School Essentials, it's compatible with Shadowdark. You would need to do a little bit of work to get it into 5e, but it would be doable because 5e is so different from most of these systems. But these are different games. I don't know if OSR is a game or just a movement. But yeah, that's the idea. So then there's these adventures down here, and these are OSR adventures. So you don't need to run these in this game. You can run them in whatever OSR system. So BX compatible adventure, BX compatible adventure, BX compatible, and those tend to be fairly adaptive to other game systems as well in this OSR movement. Stephen Fox, good to know. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of your comment so I can look for it later. Yeah, Shades, it is a fascinating corner of the hobby. If you want a YouTuber who talks a lot more about that, I would recommend Questing Beast. No. There we go. Questing Beast is an OSR GM. And most of his videos these days especially is just looking at an OSR supplement and flipping through it and being here are some cool new products that you can run in an OSR game and they're not all OSR, but it tends to be a lot of small press or rules light or similar design. So here we have an old school essentials book, Land of Eam, which is not, I don't think, OSR. I could be wrong. About that. But it's an indie game. Mothership is an indie game, I think, comparatively. So I would definitely check out. In fact, if I actually just look up Questing Beast. Yeah, what is D&D's OSR style of play? Or what is the D&D old school renaissance? If you go check out that video, that'll help a lot in terms of getting a sense. And then you actually have someone else saying, no, that's not what the OSR is. And I don't know this guy from Adam. Maybe he's awesome. Maybe he sucks. But because it is such a community first movement, as opposed to something that came from an individual system or a company or something like that, you're going to get disagreement. And that's part of the nature of it. All right, we got some more Steeders in here in this part of the dungeon. Yeah, I'll need to figure out what I'm doing about this Hall of Records. One other thing that I noted a lot about the OSR that I've noticed a lot is its emphasis on weirdness. Something that I think with OSR I think with modern D&D has definitely, there's been much more of a focus on logic and on satisfying narrative, and I think the appeal of some people for the OSR, maybe not everyone, but some, isn't just that the part about you're going on dungeons, it's very self-directed, so that's very cool in that sense. The other cool thing is that you might just find some random crap, and that is sort of the fun of it. You can tell this is much less in the random crap zone and much more in the what would Moria look like from Lord of the Rings as a full mega dungeon. So this is less of the random crap side of the OSR. I say crap, not pejoratively. just a bunch of randomness is more likely in some OSR. I mean, a perfect example of that is go watch anything Bob World Builder has ever done to talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics, because that is a bunch of random crap game. And again, I mean that as a compliment if that's the kind of game you like. If that makes sense. And close some of these. Oh, well, I probably need that open. Okay, I know what villains they're going to be dealing with when they get to this part of the dungeon. That was the main thing I needed to figure out. So now we're going to go back to the Black Mines. And there's something else in between as well. Where is it? Albert Rodeo? Yeah, down here. There's, I was like, Pure One Imports. What did I tell them that was this? Oh, Bottomless Mimosas. They were just writing random crap. The Bottomless Chasm I did tell them about. The rest of this was not. But yeah, there's some Kuatoa in this area. I believe that's in P3. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just know that there are Kuatoa. I'll need to take a look at that to see what I can, feed into P4. I don't think I'm going to get a ton more prep done tonight. That's okay. I need to go make dinner soon. But this helps answer my question. Okay, so there are dwarf slaves. Yeah, maybe there are still dwarf slaves. The slave population is quite old, and many dwarves have died under the lash of the trolls. Most of them were captured and have been enslaved for it. It won't be 250 years. It'll be like 90. And I've already described in my game that the troll has taken over. He was not normally part of it, but that's because I'm replacing the trolls with, I think, drow. But it may not be drow here. It may be the drow are further down. This is what I want to figure out today. Is who are you? Who? Who can I throw at my players without killing them? Orcs? Could it just be orcs? We don't really have a lot of orcs in this game. Unless were they orcs that my players fought before? I might need to look at a recap. I'm opening this in another window so you don't see it. That's something else I need to do after the stream. Make Zephy YouTube mod. I'll do that later because she wasn't able to grab that comment earlier, but I will take care of that. Okay, where is the recap? That was when they fought the gnolls. Yeah. Husk. I think these were hobgoblins. No, they were bugbears. Okay. Couldn't have told you that. So maybe these are hobgoblins then. Are hobgoblins going to kill my players? No, I don't think so. So they fought bugbears. Wait, why am I opening YouTube? Force of Habit? D&D Beyond. Maybe it's time for some hobgoblins. Okay, good. And we got a few different types. We've got the warrior, the captain. Oh, no, these are a good challenge rating. This is a great challenge rating. Okay, warlord. CR6. Oh, boy. Brother. But then they're going to be working with the drow. No, shoot. It does have to be drow, I think. No, it doesn't. The slaves have to be drow, I think. Drow mixed with old dwarves. No, that makes no sense. All I have established is that this area was taken over by a troll. The drow can have been displaced. They can be displaced back to the foundry. Those ones are still free. There maybe will be a few still working with them. And mostly, I think I'm going to replace the trolls with hobgoblins and goblins. And I can kind of like mix it up a lot per room. And I can kind of feel that out on a case-by-case basis / roll randomly. And what I'm going to need to do is... I don't need this right now. I don't need this right now. I just need these two. No, other way around. What I will do is put these in whatever the name of the program is that I use to make my maps. Albert Rodeo. Put these in Albert Rodeo. In fact, what I'm probably going to do is do a little screenshot. And just throw this in the map as is. Which I will do later. And then I can just start placing bad guys down on the board. And have them like moving around. And have them placed. Let's see. Random monsters. Instead of Troll Warband, it will be Goblin Warband. Black Orc Warband. Okay, so we have the Black Orcs. Fair enough. Two-headed Troll. There's only one of those. Cave Troll will probably be a Hobgoblin. Ochre Jelly. Cool. Giant Boring Beetle. Or, you know what? This could be an Ogre. Cave Troll might become an Ogre. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let me read through this and get a little bit of a sense of the... Oh, show Dwaro Deep Illustration 15. Okay. Bones protrude from the side of the burial. Yeah, so that's probably that corpse that I think I saw, that I called out as looking like it came right out of... Pardon me. Yep. Okay, so that's in this area. I'll go ahead and screenshot that now so I don't forget. Trolls. Male slaves. Oh, someone said something else about prep earlier. Somebody said something about prep and a map. Who was that? I don't think it was Shades. I don't think it was Steven. I could be wrong. This was before we got into the OSR proper, I believe. There we go. Oh, well, no. Inno asked another good question. Innocence asked, you share some of your artwork from some of your early games and it looked so good. Do you still draw? No, I want to get back into some drawing. I have more drawing I want to do. I don't usually draw for my D&D games these days. But, like, part of me always thinks, like, oh, it would be so much fun to start doing drawing for recaps. I just don't have the time. You know what I mean? I realize you asked that question like 30 minutes ago. There was another question. Maybe it was Shades. Ah, yes, it was. I would love to see your prep of a module like Lost Mines because the only one I have tried to run, and seeing your prep compared to mine would be so fun. That was right before the OSR conversation. Yeah, I know. I've thought about that too. I do want to run Lost Mines, and you know what? Maybe that's... I've been trying to figure out what game I can run for like this summer for people who are interested. I should run Lost Mines. It's a nice self-contained adventure. It's a good intro adventure. And you're really only on the hook for that much part of the campaign. I should run some Lost Mines. That might be the one I do next, to go track down that adventure. See if it's in the garage, which I think it is. 90% sure that it was in the one I just went to. Yeah. I'm actually finally doing prep. I'm doing prep, y'all. One of the dwarves is 30 Longbeard, a level 4 fighter. I have mixed feelings about that. How many games do I get to play in as a player? None until we finish this part of the campaign, and then I'll get to be a player again. This is the only group where I get to be a player at all, which is fine with me. I like running games. It would be nice to hand things over and not have to do the prep as much. But again, I've been procrastinating the prep. That's really the, you know, as long as I make the time for it, I like doing prep. I am a different kind of GM when I actually do the prep versus when I don't. And I think I sometimes get too comfortable not doing the prep. And I can make my way through an adventure pretty well if I've just read it once. But boy, oh boy, I feel so much more... I don't know. I don't know if my players notice a difference, but I feel like I do, obviously. What the fuck? A Stegula Centipede? Fuck yeah, this rules. A Stegula Centipede? What a good book. What a good adventure this is. Did I miss it? Is it not here? Or are these segmented out? Did I miss a dividing line? No, I don't see it. Let's go back. Let's look for the Stegula Centipede again. Exact matches. Stegocenipede. 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 There we go. No. Okay. I guess I have to make up what that is. That's interesting. Unless it did not originate here. So let's Google it. No. Search instead Stegocenipede. Ugh. AI overview. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's a thing. Huh. Cool. No, where would it be? Oh, jeez. Oh, okay. So Mega Dungeon Monster Manual by Craig Gillespie. Okay, so somebody uploaded this. That's annoying. I'm sure I'm looking at pirated content right now. I just wanted to know what a Stegocenipede is. I think I have an idea. Oh, and also now I can't even read it because it's like watch an ad to read the next 20 pages or subscribe. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, sample file. Jesus. Oh, good. I have a PDF that I opened. Well, I'm going to open it over here. And I'm only going to look for the Stegocenipede. And no result found. Yeah, because it's only 4 pages long. Yeah, it's on page 93, and this only goes to page 5. Well, I guess I'm making it up. I guess there's a Stegocenipede in my game. I have to figure out what it is. I would have had it converted anyway. So that's something I have to figure out. Is what is a Stegocenipede going to be? There's an entry on the Forgotten Realms wiki if that helps. It absolutely does help. Oh, is it different? Is it stego for? Yep. Okay, that's why. Okay. Large. Okay, so like the size of a horse. All right, so they're just giant centipedes. Cool. I'm not going to call them that. I'm going to call them Stegocentipedes because that rules. And I'm probably going to make them huge because I'm a monster. But my players are going to fucking love the Stegocenipede. Okay. What else? I'm really only going to be on here for about another 10 minutes. And then I will dip. The body is that of Kalgrim. Blood of Kargar and Stoneborn. Yep, there's the centipede. I could have just gathered it from context clues. Groaning spirits. Maybe I'll make that a banshee or something. Oh, we gotta have the huge spikes on its back. Yeah, that's true. Maybe some sort of tail attack. With spikes. It's got the spines and it's got spikes. Well, maybe it'll all just be spikes. Yeah, we don't want to go crazy here. Okay, so far I'm seeing lots of dwarf slaves. Which is fair, which is fine, and I like them. I think it's very funny that they've recruited a werebear drow who has just fully not mentioned to them that there are living dwarves here. Like, did not even occur to her to be like, oh yeah, of course there are. What the balls? Los Lutzka the Neo Otiug. Cool. Okay. Shriekers. Oh, those are mushrooms. Okay. I'll look at the mushrooms in the book. Cave troll. Okay, so this is cave troll is probably going to be like an ogre. Because I think that's what they're going for. Well, in fairness, there have always been Neo-Otyughs. We just didn't know the Neo-Otyughs were there. Steven, what is a Thagomizer? Am I going to get put on a list if I Google this? Oh. Wait, what? It was coined by Gary Larson? After the late Thag Simmons. That's really good. That is so funny. A Thagomizer. Wow, that's fantastic. Innocence, how much / often do you homebrew stuff? Do you mostly just modify already existing stuff, or do you like to create from whole cloth? It depends on the campaign. The in-person game that I'm running is mostly all whole cloth, and it's hard work. But sometimes it's easier. Certainly it's easier to improvise in that game because I can just make up a dungeon. And I don't have like something I've actually talked about in a script that I was going to put out next, but it's getting pushed back for unrelated reasons. But because something I talk about in that video script is like I admire the kind of game Matt Colville has talked about, which is Sanjay, it's the Neo-Otyugh is a spellcaster? Jesus. Okay. Good to know, I guess. Can I leave notes for myself? Is that I'm probably gonna need a reminder. Comments? There we go. Spellcaster. I should be doing this more. What the hell? There we go. Matt Colville has talked about a type of game he likes to run, where he just drops a bunch of existing dungeons onto a map, and he just sort of sets his players free, and he gives them some hooks into some of them, and they have to find the others. And the reason he's able to do that so effectively is because he's already come up with, or he's already like read all these old school adventures. He talks about this in a video of his called Sandboxing. Not the Sandbox versus Railroad video, the Sandboxing video. I have always wanted to run a game like that, and the problem with it is that I don't have the deep bench of adventures that he does. I'm making a video about a solution I found to that by going into a different system and how much easier it is to make adventures for that setting, I guess is the better way to put it. I'll talk about that another day. But for D&D, I am trying to get better at using pre-existing material because, boy, can it make my life easier. But also sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes it is less convenient for me to sit and go through all this stuff. I'm trying to get better about that so I can basically use my time more effectively. That's the best way to put it. Because I'm also happier when I don't have to just make up a dungeon on the fly, right? Either I should make a dungeon in advance or go find a dungeon. And because if I know that if I just invented the mega dungeon as they went through it, I would not be happy with it. They might have fun, and that's good, and I'm glad. And, you know, that really is all that matters, but also I know I would just feel so much more comfortable looking at a pre-existing resource. So that's also why I'm trying to stream more of my prep, is so I can actually, you know, put in the time. Black Orc Warriors. Black Orc Warband Leader. Okay, so there's some orcs. Just arrived from entrance D, the Forgotten Stairs, and require an audience. That does not make sense because that's where my players just came from. So... What the hell? Man, can I only... Is that the only comment I can do on a page? Well, I'll have to look at that later. So most of the NPCs in here are just dwarves, which is totally fine. Just slaves. Where is the two-headed troll typically located? Is this it? No. Ugbog, the cave troll sub-chieftain. Okay. My players also don't know it's a troll yet. That's the really fun thing. That's going to be a fun realization. Mitchell, that's okay. I am going to be doing a lot more live streaming this week. So, and hopefully much earlier. So you should see me tomorrow. I'm actually only going to be on stream for another like 5 minutes. And then I have to go make dinner. So where is the, what's the name of the troll? Yuklaz. Where is Yuklaz? That's just what I want to figure out before we get started. Before we wrap up today. Oh. Oh, fantastic. Mitchell, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the membership. I'm trying to add all the stream stuff. You know, like actually, there we go. The chamber is home to Yuklaz's personal bodyguards. Cave Trolls 2. Okay. Okay. Pay, or no. Room 32. I bet you I can swap out the bodyguards with something a lot more interesting than Cave Trolls. What would be more interesting than Cave Trolls? Great question. Hey, you know what? That was a great question, and I'm glad that you asked it. Troglodytes. What CR level are troglodytes? I'm not going to be, when I do stream tomorrow, I'm going to have a hard stop time at 4 o'clock, which is 2 hours before now, because I don't stream that game, because our kids are often showing up on camera, and that is not, I'm not doing that. Okay, room 33 is where Yuklaz is. That makes sense. The bodyguards would be right there. 32, 33. Interesting. Okay. That's a surprising spot for that. The bodyguards. What could the bodyguards be? I only have one kid. One of the other players has 2, and another player also has 2. So many kids frequently appear on that camera. No. Not. I only have 1 child, but there are 5 in that. 5 belonging to the members of that D&D group. And so a lot of times, one of the players is my brother-in-law, and a lot of the time when he's on stream, he is trying to comfort his child, because they're all on the East Coast, too. They're all 3 hours ahead of me, and so it's like they're really trying to get the gaming in as much as possible, but also it's like around bedtime, and so especially for a... God, how old is my niece? Like... Oh, well, she's almost exactly a year younger than my kid, so yeah, like a year and so what, 14 months old? He is a 14-month-old. So we don't stream that game, and we never will, because the kids need to be able to come in and see parents when they're going to sleep, and sometimes people have to play the game from their phone with their camera muted or their mic muted as they're rocking a child. I'm going to just figure out what these bodyguards are, and then I'm going to go to that's going to be the end of the stream. Not specters, although that's cool. It doesn't have to be off this list. I'm just trying to look for inspiration on this. Giant centipede, we're going to be using Nothic. Whoa, that's a bad idea, right? Mike, don't do this thing. Don't do this thing. No. What a bad idea this is. No, I couldn't do that. No. First of all, okay. First of all, it's very, very funny. Yeah, I'm going to do a Wednesday prep. Wednesday stream is definitely going to be Monster of the Week prep. Okay, here's my thinking, right? Why does a 2-headed troll need a bodyguard, right? 2-headed troll, probably pretty durable. What can... Oh, Link, I'm actually only going to be streaming for another 5 minutes, and then I'm actually going to call it, but I will be back online tomorrow, and I'll be online earlier tomorrow. What I'm going to try to do tomorrow is schedule it in advance. So tonight I'm going to post, like, schedule the stream. And if all goes according to plan, I should just be able to jump right into that live stream automatically. That has failed me in the past, but that's the thing I'm trying to figure out right now. I might even do a test for that tonight. It's like not a real live stream, but just throw up a scheduled version and then try to live stream into it and see if it works. We'll see what happens. But I may not be able to do that tonight. I may not have the time, which is fine. I can do it tomorrow. Here's my thinking. Like, the Nothic provides a ooh or a myconid. Ooh, that is interesting too. Or it could be both. It could be both. Like, the troll could essentially be like, I need these bodyguards to, you know, protect me in ways that I'm not able to protect myself. It's a two-headed troll. What ways can't it protect itself? All right, well, it wouldn't be the... No, Myconid is not powerful enough for this. But the Nothic can do things that the troll can't. Like, rot your mind or read your mind or things like that. Spectator's fun. Spectator is really fun. And I like that these kind of come from like the weirder side of, like, the implication here is like, oh, look at these creepy monsters that came from deeper in the dungeon, right? You don't want to mess with whatever these are from deeper in the dungeon. CR3, CR2, yeah. Which is nice, because then if they're also fighting the troll, then basically it's not just a bunch of strong guys. That's the thing that I like, right? If they actually do get involved in a fight that's alongside Yukla's, I believe it, right? That's what I'm leaning towards. Right now I'm leaning towards a Nothic and a Spectator, but the other thing I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to read... Where is it? I think it's this. P3, which is what's coming next. It's actually coming in between these two. They're going to pass through P3 on their way to P6 from P4, because they're just coming at it from a different perspective than the book sort of assumes they will. So I'm going to look and see if there's anything else in this area that I might like more. But right now I really like Nothic and Spectator. Shade, you're right. I think Nothics are weirder than Spectators, but I think this dungeon full of secrets, I like the Nothic in this space. Nothics make sense to me here, because their whole deal is what? Consumed by thirst for forbidden knowledge. They are cursed lore seekers, transformed by secrets never meant to be known. So they are like a former explorer who came down here and got transformed by the weird madness stuff they learned. I like that a lot. Spectator, Nothic. I wonder if there's any reason it could be... There's no reason it should be two Nothics instead. I really like a Spectator, though, because I like the Spectator as like another relic of the old world here. This is... unless I see something... I need to read P3 tomorrow anyway, just to make sure I can properly foreshadow anything that comes up in P4 that I want to like foreshadow for P3. So I'll keep an eye out for anything I like more, but man, I really like the Spectator and the Nothic for this. What I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm just going to put the map in here. It's going to be much more straightforward. I'm going to put the map into Owlbear Rodeo for the dungeon that we're playing through. It's going to look like... Nope, not that one. That was my reminder to... Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. There we go. I'm going to put this map into Owlbear Rodeo. And then I'm going to just start putting monsters on here somewhere. And then I will basically have the map figured out, which is nice. Then my players will just be able to walk through it. And I'll also make notes to myself about things that may encounter. And that should be a lot of fun. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put some hot dogs in a pot with some water. I'm going to fill that water with heat. And I'm going to make those hot dogs safe to eat. And I'm going to put some chili in another pot, straight out of the can. I'm going to heat that up. I'm going to put the hot dogs and the chili together with a bun and some cheese. and I'm gonna have some dinner. I will see you all very likely tomorrow, and then I'll do some prep on Wednesday for my Monster of the Week campaign. See you all later. Bah.